Welcome back to The Clean Truth by Ruby. I am so glad you are joining us today for our 19th episode, which is titled, What's Really Inside Your Descaler? Breaking down ingredients that matter.
It's a surprisingly important topic.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, most people know they should descale their coffee machines, but very few actually know what is inside the descaling products they use.
Right. We just buy a bottle, pour it in, and hope it does the job.
Exactly. And today, our mission for this deep dive is to look at a highly practical, really eye-opening piece from the kitchen by Ashley Rodriguez. We are looking at a universal morning ritual for you, me, basically everyone making coffee.
It is the one thing we rely on to start the day.
Right. You probably have a beautifully designed brewer on your counter right now. You might even go out of your way to source these excellent, ethically treated beans. But there is this harsh reality we need to face.
Yeah, the maintenance side of things.
Even if you buy the best beans, you are likely neglecting the single most important maintenance step for your machine, descaling.
Because understanding what is inside your descaler actually helps you make much better choices about how you care for your equipment, which is why ingredient choice matters so much. From effectiveness in removing the scale to, safety for the machine and ease of rinsing afterward.
Which connects so naturally to Ruby's coffee descaler.
Yeah.
Simple, effective ingredients designed to remove scale without any unnecessary additives. Okay, let's unpack this core problem of mineral buildup. Let's take a closer look at what's really inside your descaler and why those ingredients matter more than you might think.
Let's do it. So, water. Even if you use a fancy pitcher filter, your tap water carries a specific chemical payload.
And over time, that payload leaves behind what we call scale. It starts subtly, right? You might just notice this faint, chalky, powdery film inside the water reservoir.
Yeah, just a little cloudiness on the plastic.
But if you leave it unchecked, that powdery layer thickens. It eventually turns into something that looks like gnarly rock candy. It clogs the machines and completely ruins the taste of your coffee.
To give you the scientific context here, that scale is calcium carbonate. It is caused by hard water. When cold tap water hits the machine's heating element, the sudden heat lowers the solubility of those minerals. They precipitate out and instantly bond to the nearest hot metal surface.
Layer after layer just baking onto the internal plumbing.
Exactly. And the machine has to work so much harder to push water through.
Which means the water hits your coffee grounds way too cold, making the coffee taste super sour. Now, the logical leap a lot of people make here is, well, if minerals are the problem, I will just use totally pure distilled water, zero minerals.
Which sounds brilliant on paper.
Right. But Ashley's article points out this fascinating paradox. Using totally distilled water is actually a terrible idea.
It really is. You need some of those dissolved minerals, specifically calcium and magnesium, to brew a proper cup. Water needs those ions to act as a chemical vehicle. When the hot water hits the coffee bed, the calcium physically binds to the flavor compounds and pulls them out of the bean.
So if you use pure distilled water,
Your coffee will taste incredibly hollow and lifeless. The water just washes over the grounds without extracting any of that complex flavor.
so we're locked in this cycle. We have to use mineral-rich water for good coffee, which means we are constantly feeding the machine the exact ingredients that cause scale.
There's no way around it. You just have to manage the buildup.
Which brings us to the magic ingredient. Ashley consulted with specialty coffee professionals, and the barista-recommended solution is citric acid.
It is such an elegant fix.
It really is. It is naturally occurring in citrus, it is completely food grade, and it is even found in sodas. Sometimes you will see it in the baking aisle sold as sour salt.
What's fascinating here is that citric acid acts as a chelating agent.
A chelating agent. Okay, break that down for us.
Chelation is a type of chemical bonding. Citric acid literally bonds to and removes metals. The acid molecules physically encapsulate the calcium and magnesium ions in the scale. They pull the minerals right off the metal walls of your boiler and dissolve them back into the water.
So it isn't just scrubbing the surface, it is chemically dismantling the rock candy.
Exactly. And once those minerals are suspended in the liquid, the machine just flushes them out the spout.
Which leads to this massive economic aha moment for anyone listening. If you go to a premium supermarket, you will see all these expensive commercial descalers, fancy bottles, professional branding. They cost $15, $20, sometimes $30 for a tiny bottle.
Oh yeah, they are incredibly expensive.
But if you look at the safety data sheets, almost every fancy, expensive commercial descaler on the market is primarily just citric acid.
You're basically paying a massive premium for a plastic bottle, a nice label, and a bunch of water.
It is wild. Ashley points out that a 2-pound bag of pure citric acid powder from a brand like Milliard or Viva Doria costs less than $10.
And that one bag will probably outlast the coffee maker itself. It is an incredibly cheap and effective alternative.
So how do we actually do this? The article walks through a really simple 4-step process. Step 1, dissolve 2 tablespoons of citric acid powder in 1 liter of hot water.
You have to make sure it is fully dissolved so you don't send grainy powder into the pump.
Right. Step 2, pour that into the reservoir and run a brewing cycle without coffee.
That is when the active chelation happens. The heat accelerates the process.
Step 3, run a water-only cycle, or maybe 2, just to rinse it all out and neutralize the pH. And step 4, wipe the reservoir with a clean microfiber cloth.
It is foolproof. Dissolve, cycle, flush, and wipe.
But the reality of doing this can be a little scary, especially with nice equipment. Ashley shared her real-world test on her own daily brewer, which is a Technivore Master.
Oh, that is a gorgeous premium machine. Very precise.
And very expensive. So she mixes the solution, starts the cycle, and watches the carafe. Here's where it gets really interesting. The water didn't come out cloudy or clear. It came out light blue.
I can imagine the panic.
Total panic. You think you just melted the inside of your $300 machine to save $10 on cleaner?
Seeing bright blue water pouring out of your appliance definitely screams catastrophic chemical reaction.
But the article brings in Jackson O'Brien. He is a technician for Peace Coffee, and he breaks down the chemistry perfectly.
Yes, the Master uses a heavy-duty, pure copper boiler. Copper is amazing for temperature stability, but it is highly reactive to acids.
So when that hot citric acid hits the raw copper, it leaches a tiny amount of copper ions into the water. And those ions are naturally bluish-green.
He uses this amazing analogy from the text to explain it.
The Statue of Liberty analogy. Lady Liberty is green for the exact same chemical reason. She is made of copper plating, and over decades, slightly acidic rain caused her to oxidize and develop that bluish-green patina.
So when you run citric acid through that copper boiler, you are just recreating the Statue of Liberty effect on your kitchen counter.
Which is mind-blowing, but more importantly, Jackson reassures us that this blue water is actually a good thing.
It means the boiler was mostly clean to begin with. The acid was able to immediately touch the raw copper because there wasn't a huge layer of scale blocking it.
And it won't hurt the machine, right?
Not at all. The amount of copper being leached is microscopic. Unless you descale your machine every single day, it is completely safe. The blue water is just visual proof that the chemistry is working.
Okay, so that handles the citric acid side. But we have to address the giant elephant in the room when it comes to DIY cleaning.
The ubiquitous jug of white vinegar.
Exactly. I can hear people asking right now, can I just use white vinegar? I already have a gallon of it under my sink. It's natural. It cleans everything.
And scientifically, vinegar, which is acetic acid, will dissolve scale.
But the article forcefully debunks this as a good idea for coffee makers.
It is a massive mistake. Whatever you do, do not use vinegar in your coffee machine.
Why is it so bad, though? If it dissolves the scale, shouldn't it work just fine?
It comes down to the materials inside the brewer. The heating element is metal, but the tubes and gaskets are made of silicone and rubber. Those materials are porous on a microscopic level.
Oh, and vinegar has that incredibly strong smell.
Right. Acetic acid is highly volatile. When you heat up a vinegar solution in the brewer, the thermal expansion opens up the pores in the silicone. The vinegar leaches deeply into those pores.
And then it just gets trapped in there.
Exactly. When the machine cools down, the pores close, trapping the acetic acid inside the rubber.
So no matter how many times you flush it with clean water.
It doesn't matter. The next time you heat the machine to brew coffee, those pores open up again, and the silicone slowly off gases that trapped vinegar directly into your fresh water.
That is awful. Your expensive morning coffee is going to taste like salad dressing for weeks.
It completely ruins the flavor profile. Citric acid is odorless and non-volatile. It rinses perfectly clean. Vinegar will haunt your coffee maker.
So skip the vinegar, stick to the cheap bag of citric acid or a simple formula like Ruby's. So what does this all mean for your morning routine?
It is all about preventative maintenance. You don't want to wait until the machine sounds like it's choking.
Right. The article provides a great practical visual cue. You should aim to descale once a month. But if you aren't great with calendar reminders, there is a physical trigger you can use.
Which I love. It ties the cleaning directly to your usage.
Yes. If you use a standard drip brewer, You probably buy paper filters in those standard 50 packs. Every time you run out of a pack and have to open a new box of filters.
That is your undeniable cue to descale the machine.
It equates to about once every 2 months for a daily drinker. It takes the guesswork out entirely.
Because descaling is truly the single best thing you can do for the longevity of your brewer.
It protects your investment and guarantees your coffee tastes the way it is supposed to.
You know, if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Hmm.
it really makes you think.
About what?
Well, if citric acid is this powerful as a chelating agent, and it turns out to be the hidden, cheap, active ingredient in almost all specialized commercial coffee descalers,
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
what other expensive brand name household cleaning products sitting under your sink are secretly just basic, inexpensive food-grade chemistry in a fancy bottle?
That is such a provocative thought. It completely invites you to question the marketing behind all those specialized cleaning products we buy every single day.
It really makes you want to read the labels a bit more closely.
Absolutely. Empower yourself with a little chemistry, save some money, and brew a much better cup of coffee. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We really hope this gives you a brilliant, practical strategy for your morning routine. So grab that bag of citric acid, set your filter box trigger, and we will see you next time.